Hey everyone, Casual Gaming Dad here, and today I wanted to discuss some changes that Blizzard has made that have been data mined based on the recent beta build that we're going to be having for the upcoming weekend, Server Slam May 12th to 14th. It starts, by the way, just as a reminder, May 12th, 12 p.m., so noon PST, and it goes up through Sunday. You'll have 9 attempts to take out a Shava for a special trophy on the mount that you can get. That's part of the reason I'm going to be playing. The other part is just to play. But anyways, yesterday we got not only the ability to preload, I should say, the beta for this weekend, but because of that, people data mined some of the information in available since this was a newer build. It was above 0.9. So close to a 1.0, so very close to full release, and the devs have told us that there is going to be very little changes otherwise, just some fine-tuning moving forward, so don't expect any big swings or changes following this beta to go into the full release coming here, because the game has gone gold recently, the last few weeks. So that will probably not happen until that first season if there's going to be changes. But they did talk about doing some balancing, and I've got Rax's video in the background. If you don't know Rax, you really should check him out. He is the opposite of ARPG gamer, especially with skill issues. He is very talented. He's super good. I've been following him for quite a while, and I mean, he's just awesome when it comes to this sort of thing, especially when it comes to technicals and providing like builds and just giving it to you straight, like what you should and shouldn't do. If you like that, you like it laid out, he's part of the Maxwell GT team, check him out. But I got this video playing in the background that he did. I'm not going to react to the whole video since I watched it yesterday, but I will tell you just very briefly, just very quickly, 30 seconds. Yesterday's stream, they talked about the seasonal journeys we're going to have, the different expectations we can have for each season. They talked a little bit about the battle pass. I thought it was, interesting to say the least. They did confirm that anything with power is going to be in the free pass, which everyone has access to. The premium battle pass that you pay for, the $10 one and the $25 one, will only have cosmetics. Okay, so they keep emphasizing this because they really want us to know that, so that's the expectation. Okay, so let's just get that out of the way. That's that. And then they talked a little more about the seasons, and if you want to get more into the details, you could take a look at their website and the blog. Personally, I mean, I thought it was fine. It was informational. It was good. But they talked a little bit about some specifics. But I don't think there was anything really that I was super, super concerned about going into it. They gave some examples of like in-game, so this is in-game armor versus things you can get in the shop, right? So they talked a little more about that. But for me, the big thing to talk about today is, again, these nerfs and buffs, okay? So I'm going to give some examples that Rax talked about in his video. He only went through just a few things, so he didn't cover everything yet. And likely not everything has been data mined at this point. We're going to find out here really soon. But essentially, he went through each of the classes, and it seems like other than the rogue, I believe, every class got some sort of a nerf in some way, shape, or form. I think what they're trying to do is bring all the classes in line, bring the builds down to a space where they're kind of all in the same line, so that it essentially doesn't matter as much which build you pick, and you can pick based on playstyle and just what you like visually, or maybe you get a legendary power and you're going to go with a build that is, supported by such legendary power. So, some examples. The Barbarian took some pretty big hits to things like Upheaval. I think it was not the first upgrade to it. There was a secondary one that gave it a huge increase in damage, and that increase was cut by more than half. The Hydra, you can say goodbye to Hydra. The Hydra went from lasting from 12 seconds to 10, so it lasts less time, and instead of 42% damage, I believe it was either 16 or 18. I think it was it 18 or 6? I can't remember. But it's a huge nerf, okay, to say the least, you know. So if you like Hydras, they're probably still usable, but maybe they want us to rely a little more on other things like your build, maybe your items, maybe some powers you find, and less so on just things being grossly overpowered. I did try the Hydra out. I played the Sorcerer quite a bit in the last beta, and with Chain Lightning, it was very, very strong. I mean, just really, really strong. The Druid did get some things that came down in power and other things that came really, really high up, like the companion skills. They did talk about that. There was some pretty, so you can see here, right here, I think here it is. Direct damage, go cast your neck to deal 3, stack up to 10 times. So that's 30%. So 3% times that instead of, I think it was like 80. So anyways, the Druid, the companion skills did get significantly increased. How good it is early on is hard to say. You may need some items and whatnot to make it really like viable still. So we'll see. Either way, I tried them out and I felt like they were pretty worthless in the last beta. So maybe I'm going to try them out this time again. You know, so we'll see about that. The Necro, the Corpse Explosion, did get nerfed. As we know, the minions will die a little bit easier, so the Necro definitely got taken down a couple of notches. So anyways, here's my overall thoughts on these changes. I think I see what Blizzard's trying to do. They don't necessarily want right out the gate for there to be S-tier builds, although, I mean, tiers are relative, obviously. But for me, S-tier means it just stands way above the rest. Like, there's even above A tier. It's pretty considerable. So I see what they're trying to do. And I think I'm going to speak as a casual gamer. I think for a casual gamer like myself, I don't think that matters at all. I think that I'm going to play, like, I love the Druid, and it was the weakest one, like, by far in the last beta, and I was going to play the Druid regardless. So if they do some buffs, I mean, that's nice. I'm not going to complain about them. But at the end of the day, for a casual, I think I'm going to just play what I like to play, and it's not going to really matter. I think for the more hardcore, the competitive gamers, the min-maxers, which is definitely a much smaller percentage of the gamers that play this game, I think that this is going to hurt a lot more. But I do think it's not going to matter in the grand scheme, and I think it's not because you got people like Rax that he puts in the time, the effort, and you know they're going to find ways to min-max regardless. You know, and so instead of now it just coming from the skills per se, now it's, you know, you're going to have to find loot, you're going to have to find items, and I'm sure there's going to be ways that, you know, we figure things out, and I'm sure there'll be continual balancing as, you know, it's a live service game. So I think overall, I think I'm fine with it. I think it's okay, and I think that conceptually speaking, you know, bringing things more in line makes it so that people feel less of a need to pick a certain class or go with a certain build because it's just way better than others, you know? So, for example, for the Druid, even though the Druid was a lot weaker, the Storm skills were definitely stronger than Shapeshifting. But I like the fantasy, personally, of the Shapeshifting. I think the Werewolf was really cool with Shred. I really like the Werebear and the way it looks. I'd really like to be able to make a build with being a shape-shifting werebear that works. And so I think that, you know, balancing in that respect, you know, benefits, it makes it feel better. Whereas if I switch to Storm and it's just like way stronger, it's not going to feel as good to be able to play that. So that's just my perspective, again, as a casual gamer. You know, I think that, you know, it just doesn't affect the majority of the player base as much. You know, I think you'll hear more of a vocal minority complaining about these types of things. You know, Diablo 3 was riddled with balance changes all the time, but I think that was a problem just because of all the high numbers and the huge scaling percentages they had in that game. I think there's a lot more potential to keep that kind of reeled in this game. We'll see if Blizzard pulls it off. I don't think it needs to be perfect. It definitely doesn't. There's going to be classes, there's going to be builds that when you introduce certain items, it's just going to tip the scales in a direction, and that's fine. I mean, you can't keep it perfect. You can't maintain that balance perfectly. It's when you have too much, all this, depth and complexity and all these items, as they add more to the game, it's just going to get harder and harder with time to maintain that. So they'll be fine-tuning things from time to time. And again, I think that's okay. For me, I just want to be able to play. I want to be able to enjoy myself. I want to be, as long as I can play through the game, if my build is viable, whatever that means. But for me, viable means that I can play the content I want. If there's a little bit of a challenge, that's okay. For some of us who don't want that challenge, you can just play on lower, world tiers if you have to. But I think that is acceptable. So, anyways, if you agree, disagree with me, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Give me a thumbs up, give me a thumbs down if you think this is a bad take. But again, I'm just speaking as a casual gamer. I think in the grand scheme of things, this ultimately doesn't really matter, and that it wasn't going to affect how I play the game. I'm going to play the classes I want to play. I'm going to play the builds that I want to play. Of course, I'm going to play based on also what I find. I think that's one of the exciting things about playing a game like this is, I may start off as shape-shifting with companions, and then I find a great legendary power that enhances another play style, maybe with storm skills, and then I switch to that. And I think that's one of the really fun things. And you can, or from season to season, based again on items. Maybe I start with something and then I find an item and I play another style, and I do that for the season. And I think that keeps some variety. It keeps it exciting, and I think overall, I'm really excited about this game. I think it's really fun to play. I think that's really important. I think there's lots of variety to play. I think the classes seem to be pretty well designed. The fantasies are really fun. There's enough depth with the skill tree and with Paragon to keep me coming back, for a long period of time. For a year. I would say, I have a much better feeling about this than I did about Diablo 3, especially after the fact, right? Easy to say that after the fact, but I have a better feeling about it. There'll probably be seasons I skip, and that's okay. I'm mostly a seasoned player, less on the Eternal Realm, and so I'm pretty optimistic. I really am. And you know what? There's so many other great games to play out there that even if it's not for some reason, then that's okay too. That's fine. But I think, again, from a casual gamer perspective, I think there's a lot of value here, and I'm expecting that. I really am. And I think people, sometimes people play games like this for hundreds of hours, and they say, oh, this game sucks, it's a 6 out of 10 or whatever. I'm like, you got hundreds of hours of enjoyment for $70, I mean, can you really complain? I mean, D3, I played it for about 1,000 hours, which is over a 10-year period. It was a little bit less than it because it's been a bit since I played it, but that's pretty good. I mean, how can I honestly complain about that? So I think this game is better. I think it's going to do better. I think and I'm looking forward to it. I really am. I'm really looking forward to it. So, anyway, sound off in the comments. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you at Server Slam, right? And if not, then I'll see you in hell next month. Have a good one. Bye-bye.